Okay, so with the strong foundation of Unit 1, which covered various types of modulation methods, which may be used to transmit digital information through probably a common channel, and also we have observed that the modulation at the transmitter performs the function of mapping the digital sequence into signal waveforms. That was the part of geometrical representation of the signal. So that was the major part of Unit 1. So basically we dealt with the digital transmitter part. This unit will begin with the receivers. Okay. So digital receivers. So Unit 2 and Unit 3 both will be a part of, I mean, even it's Unit 4 and 5, but Unit 2 will be the front end of the receivers. What we would be doing as we receive the signal, how do we convert it into a symbol, or we'll try to estimate what is actually being transmitted from the transmitter. So that's the job of the receiver. Okay, so in case of this unit, okay, so the highlights of this unit totally depends on how we look at the receiver. So we look at the receiver in a very, very broad sense in this way. Say this is your, as you receive the signal, so this is your received signal. Okay, received signal through an antenna, an RF antenna, and the front end of this receiver, the first block that you would call a signal demodulator, followed by a part of detection and estimation. Okay, so that would be the part of this. I mean, if the received signal is say something like Ri, you would be estimating the symbol as SI hat. Okay, so we'll look at the receiver in this very broad sense and try to understand the highlights of this Unit 2 would be, we first look into different signal demodulators. Okay. Then we will explore the properties of optimum demodulator. Okay, so we want a demodulator to be optimum, and we will try to understand what is an optimum demodulator. This is known as matched filter. Okay. And then after covering the matched filter concept and exploring its properties, then we'll try to analyze the concepts involved in detection and estimation. Okay. The estimation theory in general. First, we'll try to estimate in this detection and estimation. Analyze detection and estimation theory in general. Then we'll try to apply this theory, okay, to various modulation schemes that we have studied. Okay, it could be memory-based modulation, or it could be memory-less based modulation schemes. So most of our modulation schemes were memory-less. Only MSK was a part of our memory-based modulation. But we will also include one more memory-based modulation as a DPSK, as a differential PSK, phase shift gain, which will cover both its transmitter and receiver part together and try to analyze. And of course, just application will not help, but also we will be evaluate their performances with respect to bit error rate, in particularly with probability of error. Okay, so that would be the highlight of this Unit 2. And note that this Unit 2, as per the syllabus copy, we would be restricting Unit 2 only for the channel, because the received signal will be corrected by the noise in the channel. Our discussion will restrict to only additive white Gaussian noise, and the Unit 3 will cover the noise which is band limited. Okay, so there will be, receivers analysis can be split into two parts when it is corrupted by AWGN and band limited noise. You will understand it's both their importance when we try to progress through the units. So with that, we will begin with the first part of the discussion, that is the concepts involved in demodulation. Okay. So first we need to demodulate the received signal before we pass it through the successive blocks. So we know that the symbol waveforms, which are the continuous waveforms which are transmitted from the transmitter, which are based on the variations in amplitudes of the carrier or frequency or the phase of the carrier, or probably the combinations of more of one parameter, okay, which will be converted. Okay, the job of demodulator is to convert these symbol waveforms to simply a number, which is known as test statistic. Okay, that's the job of the demodulation, because we want to discretize everything, because the digital communication, as soon as we receive an analog waveform, we just want to make it discrete, so that every number will be mapped to a particular symbol which is transmitted from the transmitter. So accordingly, we have different types of demodulators. Okay, the types of demodulators include one is known as clock sampling. So this initial part is not covered in any of the reference textbooks that I have shared. So this is historically these have been developed. So most of the recent edition textbooks do not cover it. So, but the discussions are not complicated. So you can just follow the class lectures. The clock sampling is also known as the center point sampling or CP sampling. Okay. And there is another type of demodulation known as averaging over, or averaging filter, or averaging over a symbol period. All we need to convert these continuous waveforms into a number. So if I take sample with respect to a clock, if I try to take samples of those continuous waveforms and convert it to a number, such receiver a demodulator is known as a clock sampling receiver. And if I try to average the values, I'll wait for one complete symbol period, and whatever the values that I get over that symbol period, if I try to take an average value, that can also be converted to a number, which can be regarded as a test statistic. Okay, so the third type, which is an optimum demodulator or optimum receiver, which is known as matched filter, or it's also called as correlator. So let's quickly get into the details of this. I'll try to cover the first part or the second part today, and we'll touch on the third part in the next session. So the basic requirement this is to recall that the signal which have represented S of t so far is the band pass modulated signal, which is represented as real part of SL of t into e power j2 not t, where SL of t is a low pass signal. And we have also assumed that this has finite energy, okay, which made us to represent in a vectorial form. And this signal gets corrupted with the noise in the channel, whose far spectral density is given as N0 over 2. And hence, it is known as white Gaussian noise. Okay, so this far spectral density is in this fashion. We usually represent this as N of f. N refers for the noise, and S refers for the spectral. So spectral density is Gaussian. Okay, in this case, sorry, yeah, sorry. So this is supposed to because this is Gaussian, of course, but it's with
It should be
constant.
flat.
Yeah, it should be flat. Sorry, since I'm writing this as n of f, yeah, so this is supposed to be flat for all the frequencies, but with sorry, but with height of something mistake here, but with a magnitude of n naught by 2. Okay, so this half n naught by 2 refers for this is spread over its mean, which is we consider it as 0. So it's n naught by 2 on the two sides. It's a dual sided power spectral density. Okay, so let's not worry much about that part. But we need to know that this is power spectral density will have unit of watts per hertz. So if you want to find out the noise power, we need to appropriately multiply with the bandwidth. So if it's passed through a band pass filter or low pass filter, appropriate bandwidth would get you the noise power which gets transmitted through that particular filter. So it is white because it's flat over all the frequency ranges, and it is Gaussian because the variance is n naught by 2, and it affects the instant signal in a Gaussian way. Anyway, that we will be analyzing in the later part. And what you should know that this has infinite bandwidth. It's spreading over minus infinity to plus infinity in the channel. Okay, so the signal when it is received, the S of t which is received to the receiver. So this is a received signal S of t. It has passed through a channel. We assume this channel to be an ideal. Okay, this is an ideal channel just for the mathematical sake. So ideal channel in the sense we say that this h of t is delta of t, in the sense h of f is unity. Okay, so that h of t is delta of t, and it is received at the receiver. This is your receiver, where you also get added with the noise whose power spectral density is n naught by 2. So now receiver job is to when it receives this signal, it has to convert this continuous time domain signal to a number. So as we told, we'll start with the first type of signal demodulator, that is when receiver is clock sampling the data. When it is clock sampling the received data, what I mean by that is, okay, that is the signal is received, and I can say that this has say something Si of t, and of course we have said that this is an ideal channel, which is delta of t, which is received at the receiver. The receiver architecture is such that it multiplies the received signal with a clock. Okay, because clock I represent it as a pulsed waveform. Of course, this receiver is also added with the noise, which is n naught by 2 additive white Gaussian noise. Okay, so this is my sampled output. Here, the test statistic is obtained with such a receiver, with such clock sampling receiver. The value of the data sampled, which is obtained at the output of this receiver, is by using a very high frequency clock, or the duration of this clock. If I mention this as tau clock, will be very small when compared to your symbol time Ts. Or in other words, with respect to the bandwidth, the bandwidth of the clock, which is the inverse of this T clock, okay, would be very large when compared to the bandwidth of signal, okay, signal data. In that sense, what I'm trying to say here is, if I try to plot the spectrum Okay? I would appreciate this. Where if you take magnitude spectrum, say magnitude of both of that, or the desired signal will occupy certain bandwidth. Since we are talking about the low pass signals, I can write this as center as 0. So this will occupy certain bandwidth. Say bandwidth is referred as, since I've taken a symbol duration of Ts, so this will be 1 over Ts and minus 1 over Ts. Okay? And your clock, duration, which is much lesser than Ts, so which is a pulse waveform. So what is the frequency domain representation of a pulse waveform? How do you, what is the magnitude spectrum of a pulsed waveform?
Constant.
Is it constant? P of t, yeah, it's a sinc. It's a rectangular function, right?
Yeah.
So it will be a sinc function, correct? So that would be a sinc function, okay, which is diminishing amplitude, whose zero crossings is governed by 1 over t clock and minus 1 over t clock. Okay, so it is small such that it passes the complete signal. Okay, but the problem with this, this kind of receiver is that you also see that there is some additive white Gaussian noise whose power spectral density is somewhere n0 by 2. It not only passes the desired signal, but it also passes huge amount of noise along with that. Okay, so that it would corrupt our detection and estimation, the algorithms. So you can say that the more noise is allowed in the test statistic. Okay, earlier this used to be the case, but we have moved away from such kind of the technique. Of course, it depends on the application, but for wireless application, definitely you would incur more noise in the sample output. So the second type is called as average receiver. We'll not spend much time on these first two types, but just for the sake of understanding different types of receivers, we'll try to cover these parts. The statistic in this average receiver, as the name itself says, that is the average energy of the received signal taken over a single period. Okay, so this means that the test statistic, okay, it's just a number. Okay, the word test comes from the meaning that we are going to pass that a sample value and test it and try to estimate on the value of the number that is generated. Okay, here is the average value, or you can say average energy of received signal over a single period. Okay, so in other words, we have seen that any symbol can be sketched in terms of vectors, or we have seen that signals can be represented geometrically. Say if I say it's a two-dimensional representation of a signal, say just for an example, if I consider say S1 is represented at this point, of course this is a vector, and say let us say that S2 is represented at this point, and those signals, as we said, are geometrical representation of the signal which can be drawn as a vector, which can be regarded as a vector. Okay, now we know that as these symbols get transmitted over the channel, and the channel is corruptive, which tries to corrupt the transmitted signal, and the receiver, when it receives the number or the sample that is taken, or the average energy of the received signal that is taken over a single period, may not be pointing towards the same the same vector. Probably when it gets corrupted in the noise, the sample could be somewhere lying around it. It could be more worse depending on the nature of the channel, but it could be definitely not at exactly at the same vector that is represented at the transmitter end. So if you try to take the symbol energy over a symbol period, say probably you will not be getting these vectors, because I don't know which symbol is transmitted. I'll just simply try to take the average energy over a symbol period. Probably it could be at this point. Say for example, if this is my received vector, say if I call this as R, this would be my the transmitted symbol plus the noise. Okay, this is a corrupted signal. Of course, I can represent the noise also as a vector. And you can see that the midpoint between S1 and S2, because I need to set my threshold to say which is my transmitted signal. Say the midpoint of these, if I just try to bisect these two, I mean this angle, which is the angle subtended by S1 and S2, if I try to bisect them, I would call, if I get a value, the average value, if it is on the right of this decision boundary, I would regard this as symbol S1. If my test value or test statistic falls on the left side of this decision boundary, I would regard it as symbol S2. In this case, in this example, it seems to be favoring the symbol S1. But it would so happen that by taking the average energy of received signal over a symbol period may fall on the boundary, or if S1 is transmitted, your received vector could be falling on the region of the decision region of symbol S2. Okay, so this kind of receiver may not work all the time. Okay, this is the decision boundary. This is just a conceptual understanding of the average receiver, but definitely it seems that it may not something has to be more to be incorporated to make it more intelligent or to make it more robust.